Hey everybody, this is Corey from thoughtsoldiers. Today I am back with Tyler Arsenal.
What's up?
So Tyler, I coached Tyler for a little while. We've had a little break in our lives, doing our own things, fulfilling our destinies, and we wanted to come back together and bring back discussions with the divine masculine. So Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, man. It's so good to talk to you again. It was definitely way too long.
Way too long, way too long.
We
But
always have like you and me have talked about, we always have this thing where like it's always like the same things that are going on in each other's lives. We always have the same, like we're always going through the same a lesson, like soul lessons, it feels like. So it's nice to reconnect and remember, not alone, not alone.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. And recently it's really felt isolated. It's felt more of a lot of integration period, a lot of ego smashing, a lot of masculine traits that you and I were just talking about, which we're going to flow into. And it's nice to be able to, because just before this, I was in my shadow. And it's nice to hear that you're going through a similar experience, because I'm like, oh shit, I'm not alone. So catch me up a little bit with what's been going on with you, and we'll just kind of take it from there and flow into the learning lessons and everything else that's been going on.
A lot of things actually. You had a video out. I'm not sure when this is going to be out, but from the time we're recording this, I think it was yesterday. You put out a video that talked a lot about like the masculine going through their problems with their self-worth, and that's what I've been definitely struggling with a lot lately. For those that remember the first episode, I was having a hard time with my job, and I was like, I need to get out of it. I need to get out of it. I did. And it was awesome. It felt like everyone always says, like, when you have that job that you just like cannot stand, like everyone I know was just like, quit, get out of there, get out of there. There's always going to be another job. Always going to be another, for lack of a better word, there's always going to be another shitty job. Right, but there's only going to be one you at this time. So like, if this is causing you stress, get out of it. So I walked in and I quit, and I thanked them all for the opportunities and all the learning experiences I had, and it felt exactly like everybody told me it would feel. It felt like like I just felt unstoppable. But this is where you and me talked about on. It led to, in our society, especially with the masculine energy, we have a lot of self-worth attached to a lot of things like how much we earn, sexual performance or prowess. We have even just having a job or being a working member of something, right? Like working with your hands or whatever, right? We have all of these things that connect with who we our self-worth is who we are to everybody, right? And ever since I quit the job, because now I'm gearing up for school, so I've only got a couple of weeks till school, and I'm not going to get a job for 2 weeks. Not earning money and not working, I just found it such a struggle to be like, to feel like I'm worthy of anything, being like, what do I provide? What am I? What do I do? Right? I didn't realize those were things that were problems. These were layers of myself that I just didn't realize were still there. And like, oh man, it's been a struggle. It has been such a struggle. Like I find myself breaking down. I wouldn't say like every day, but at least maybe once a week for the last like month. Like I have these big problems of just like, who am I? What am I? Like, what do I do? What do I provide for everyone? And just feeling like no matter what I do, it's never enough, because like whether I'm helping a bunch of people or whether I'm transmuting in my own way, like I'm not earning money for doing it. So what is my worth? Right? Whether I'm doing that or not, what am I worth if I don't have this physical representation of energy, if I don't have money, right? And it's been crazy, right? It's been such a very eye-opening for looking at society in the way it is, but very eye-opening for myself, right? For a lot of healing and clearing.
Well, and what's interesting too is a lot of, and this is that new paradigm belief where we don't attach to a label of this, that, because we're so quick to let all of these external things define who we are. And if we look at the masculine too in the relationship perspective, because you and I are both in what I would call sacred partnerships, divine relationships, which are very spiritual unions, is that the old paradigm of the masculine was, it was the money, the house, the things like that, but no emotional fulfillment for the feminine. And we're now switching into a complete polar shift where we're able to be there emotionally, spiritually. We're able to be that comfort and support, to be that protector, a protector of their soul, a protector of their emotions. And yet, since we can't provide such things as the financial support, the monetary means of putting food on the table, it really leaves a hole within us. Because what we forget, though, too, is that the currency in which we are seeking today is still a give and take. Like, you're still giving something to your loved one and she's providing for you, and that is a lot more soul fulfilling than the external, which is like the money, things like that. And this is part of that polar shift that I feel like you and I are going through, is rediscovering that we do have something to offer the world and offer our loved ones, that isn't just money and shade. This is real. And it's still energy. If money is energy, so is the energy and emotion that we put into our relationships and we invest in, and the water we fill our cups with. Emotion, speaking of emotion and of the spiritual realm. So it is definitely a very interesting period. And I feel like it's smashing not only a part of our ego in order to really find who we are at our worth, but it's also helping the collective out as well, because there's a lot of people that are going to be going through this where they're asking, who am I at my soul natural imprint without this external validation?
Yeah, you know what, 100%. I couldn't have said it better. Like, that's the thing that, like, a lot of times keeps me moving forward, because, like, it's so easy, especially when those negative feelings get stirred up, right? It's so easy to kind of fall into it and just kind of break yourself down. But it's nice, like, again, like, especially talking to you, I feel like, well, everything is divinely orchestrated, but this in particular, like, it's nice to hear a fellow masculine going through the similar problems, and knowing that I'm not, that it's not just me kind of suffering alone, even though we're never really alone, but you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
And feeling selfish for feeling these things, or feeling, uh, like, me and my partner really been, like, working through it together, because it's something that, you shouldn't look for external validation, but sometimes it's nice to just hear from somebody else to look at you and say, you know what, you are worth it, right? And that's kind of what we do, like, helping other people along their path, is just look at them and say, at the end of the day, you're never going to believe it if you don't believe yourself you're worth it. But sometimes it is just so nice for someone else to look at you and say, you're so worth it, right? Like, regardless of your money, whatever society says you're worth, to hell with that. It's what you're providing me right now, this energetic exchange, or the fact that you provide me with a safe space to feel through my things, or you provide just allow me to bounce ideas off to a place of calm, a lighthouse in a storm, right? Like, those are all incredibly valuable things. I would argue more valuable than money or the job or anything. But we, as men, we have such a hard time seeing that. Women have known that forever.
Yeah,
Women
right.
so far, so much more advanced, and, like, we're now catching up. As the masculine catching up. We fought for so long doing the war and everything else, trying to define who we are, and now we're at that point where we're like, just, like, you hear it all the time, women looking for those men that can just listen, right? Or just hold that space for them, allow them to feel through their things without feeling judgment, or go through, like, my significant other, when she, like, has a bad day at work, it's not about that she wants to hear my advice on how to deal with it. She just wants me to sit there with an open heart and open mind and just let her vent out, and me look at her and go, it sounds like it was really hard today. Well, I'm glad you came home. Thank you for working so hard, right? Like, that's all she wants to hear. And I get it now, right? Like, and that's a lot of things we're learning with that emotion and everything else. And so right now we have to get that, we have to take the pounding of our egos in order for us to kind of unlock that next level.
Yeah, and we're also right now we're their peace when this world, because I think too, as these the energies are coming in and old paradigm and old structures are breaking, what's happening is there is this discordant feeling in the world right now where it's just this like I mean, my family, I don't watch the news. My family watches the news 24/7. It's on, and it's the first time I've been full. By the way, I think your microphone may have shut off because I don't hear anything on your end. Did your headphones die by any chance? I don't hear. I don't. Minor technical difficulties, and it's completely okay. We learned to roll with it.
There. I'm sorry.
No,
there we go.
Don't apologize.
I'm just gonna turn them off. Yeah.
Yeah, don't need to apologize. But as this chaos and discord is kind of erupting, it's really nice to have that peace and that safe zone where you can come home and be someone's peace.
Yeah.
And that right there is your value, is because this is also aligning with your purpose and who you are. Is when no one's watching and you're behind closed doors, who are you? And that's what's interesting, is because now we're also at a time where you can actually be 100% real and 100% authentic with someone, because I feel like until we find our counterpart, we're still kind of putting up a facade, because we're still kind of showing. But as soon as you step into that relationship with someone, you're now able to be completely vulnerable, drop all the masks, drop all that stuff, and be like, this is who I am, through the dark, through the light, through everything. And when you still have that person standing beside you and still saying, you're worth it to me, you're worth it to me, we do need that validation. And I've gone through the same struggle where I'm like, oh, I should not be dependent upon anyone for my happiness. You know, I should be a whole person. And when this person steps away, I'm going to still feel whole. But the thing is too, is that when you meet that person in your life, you're two wholes that meet and join. And then all of a sudden, when things are split apart, you're kind of two halves now. And that's what I'm facing. Like me and Samantha come together, and it's like, you know, time ceases to exist, no problems arise, and then we split up, and then it's like, who am I? And it's a struggle that I've been having, because once again, it's another label. When our energies are combined, I'm one person, and then I'm another person and it's been this struggle of like, oh wait, I thought I was supposed to be a whole person and not dependent upon anyone and not dependent on anything either. But the problem is in this society, we still need money to live. We still need self-esteem. We need to take our power back. We can't just, we're not quite yet. I feel like you and I are going through this, and a lot of other masculines are going through this, because it's going to prepare for the new paradigm, which is just an even exchange of energy. When we look at money only existed when what you were trading was no longer around. So if you were selling grain, or you were selling a vegetable or a root, when that wasn't out, you didn't have that, you had money to exchange to tie you over until you had your product that you were going to be trading with. But now it's at a point where money is everything we need, which now, how do we go about being able to, because for me, being happy and finding the abundance I want, how do I find that in this world? How do I now do something that I love to do, and it doesn't feel like work every single day, but I'm still bringing enough money to be able to afford the freedoms I want in life. So, and that's where I'm at, and that's still, I have no answers. That's a big question mark. I'm still trying to figure that crap out. But I'm glad to hear that you're making it through it, because there's a lot of people that are walking out right now too. A lot of people can't take this crap, and they're ending themselves, or their souls just gave up. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing all right. Did your microphone cut again?
No, I think it jumped over the headset somehow.
Yeah. Because when you picked up the headset, I hear, Spirit is playing with you right now. So
it's testing me all right.
Let's play back. Hi, Spirit.
Okay. gonna see if I can hear
You should
using this, if this is even on. I don't even think it is.
scratch on the turntables.
Yeah, I think that's what it's doing. And,
Okay.
Let me just set all that back to the computer because this is obviously not working super well.
That's fine. We go with the flow.
Da, 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 da. And I hear you again.
All right. Yay.
All right.
So, question, Tyler.
Yeah.
Who are you? Who are
That's
you?
a tough one.
It is.
Like there's that's the thing is I feel like I have different answers for the different levels of consciousness I'm at. Depending of how ingrained I am with the game, I could be thinking I'm just maybe I'm a pawn. Sometimes when I'm in a better state, like after meditating, I realize that I am just the divine wrapped in many, many, many layers, right? To trick myself and to thinking I'm separate from everything else while understanding that I control everything around me. And sometimes I just am.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes I'm just an observer.
Right now, who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah, right now. What defines you? So if this were
Honestly,
your...
more than anything, I'm just a friend sitting and listening to a friend having a conversation.
Okay.
That's literally what I feel. I'm just observing this and allowing this to flow and go. And yeah. What about you? Who are you right now?
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I would have to say I'm the same. I'm just a friend. I'm a friend sharing consciousness, and connecting at an energetic point in order to find a similarity and a commonality, in order to share with the world in hopes that someone else can find the same commonality within our experience, or they can go seek that in their own experience.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, I like that. I guess that's what it comes down to is we're friends and we're guides at the same time for each other and for anyone else that tunes in.
Exactly. And
it
so,
feels right and it feels important at the same time. You know what I mean? Like other times and other ways of like other works I do, like sometimes you get that feeling where you kind of like have to drudge through it and you can't really like nothing kind of just miraculously comes to you versus like this it's like just keep talking, keep everything just keeps flowing, right? I allow the information and the emotions to just come up and go and do what they gotta do.
And so right here, let's take an energetic snapshot of how you feel right now. Just in your mind, just kind of click. Remember that moment, that feeling. How can you find this in your day-to-day experience and monetize it in a form where you could do this the rest of your life? Because this is what this new paradigm kind of way of living is that we no longer settle. We find those moments of bliss, we highlight it, we remember it, we project that into the quantum field, and we create it into our reality. And we can create this into a form of a career where we can bring that money home and we can feel like the provider for our feminine, and yet we can still suit up and show up for them as well. So I wanted you to take a little energetic snapshot, because I do this now. I find these moments of like bliss and I kind of snapshot it, because that feeling I can throw into a visualization technique in order to call that out, to magnetize that experience in, because these are the experiences we need more of, especially as we're anchoring these energies and we're trying to wake up into this new world. Is there's, it was told to me, because I do want to talk about money a little bit, since this is something we're both facing, is, when it comes down to what you want to do as an individual, career-wise, you can now, let's remove all money aside. What would you do if money wasn't a factor? What would you do in your life for a career?
I'd just connect with other people, with other experiences. I would keep growing, right? Trying to find, especially when it comes in like the esoteric or the occult sciences, like that kind of stuff interests me so much, and I want to bring more of that information. But I don't get me wrong, I like reading the books, but also I prefer talking to people with the experience, right? And actually having that connection, because like a lot of times you can feel it from them, and it kind of gives you a head start in learning. And like that's what I would do. I'd have this kind of format where I just sat and talked with people and said, like, let's fire things back and forth. Let's figure it out, right?
Yeah, let's free flow. Well, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because, you know, when you meet your soul family and you meet people that you have strong connections with, like you and I, we have a very strong connection, is that your energy and my energy is two keys, essentially, that when they meet, we can start to unpack these things that we already know. And this is what, this to me, you know, people say we're co-creators, we co-create with the universe, but we can also co-create with one another. And
Yeah.
this is the value of unification in times like this, is because I have people like that where we hold space for one another to kind of unpack these ideas. And I always walk away going, where'd that come from? Because it wasn't me. We're channeling this information as we're unpacking and unwinding it. But I wanted to take that little mental snapshot with you, because then hopefully you can work with some visualization as you are starting school and figuring out kind of what is unfolding for you to be able to monetize, in order to then call that out into the field and see what arises and what opportunity will pop up that will give you those things where you feel financially stable, you're able to provide, and we no longer have to fall into those lack patterns. Or even if it's divinely guided, because it is growing as spiritual beings. I'm with you. I'm tired of the lack patterns. I'm tired of the sitting there and not being able to afford certain freedoms, wondering how I'm going to get by. But I always have to remember too, and I know this is true for you, is that we're always provided for.
And see, that's the thing that's like so hard to remember, is that no matter how desperate it gets, I'm always fed. I always have a roof over my head. And like, no matter how much I feel like I'm struggling financially, I realize that source always works out, that I always have exactly the amount I need. I never truly struggle, right? Like it might feel like it because, you know, comparing yourself to the Johnsons or anything else, like that's what motivated me to go to school, is the fact that firstly, I was sick of the career patterns I had, because I didn't have enough schooling to be like, hey, I can contribute, right? I'm not like I just needed something more, right? I needed a leg up. But it was that my girlfriend got into a career where she made a good amount of money, like much more than I could have made in my career path. And I said, you know what, it's time, right? And it forced me to say, I need to step outside of my comfort zone. I need to get rid of a lot of material things, step back into kind of being the poor college student. But hey, at least now I'm doing something that at least sparks that kind of joy and that sort of creativity, and it makes me go, oh, like I'm so excited to do, you know, a bunch of different things. And I'm excited, like you and me have talked about, I'm excited to help you. I'm excited to do a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, and also too, it's that for you and I that have faced, I'm going to talk about the death train a little bit, if you don't mind. The death train, when that comes rolling in, we need something to fuel us, because I know you and I both recently, and I mean this year, have both kind of hit our points where it's like, I'm done. I'd much rather go be in the stars or go be spirit. And so this is the other thing too, is that you're important, I'm important, and we need to keep that spark alive, because you and I have both faced very similar experiences where you ceased to exist and came back. I was very close, and I feel like when that death train rolls in and we're feeling that, it's like that is a clear signal we're completely out of alignment, and we got to pull it back. And that's by keeping that fire alive within, because there are people that need us, there's people that want us, even if we feel like we're giving up hope. But I just want to say I'm glad that you held on, because there was a moment a little while ago where you had texted me and I was like, oh no, I was like, Tyler, please. And look, you made the shift and you aligned, and you're on your way. And
Yeah.
I want to tell you, I'm freaking proud of you, bud, for hanging in there and for not giving up, because a lot of people are walking out right now. A lot of people are giving up. A lot of souls can't take it, so they choose to sign off. And I'm glad to see you're sticking around and you're chasing what you want versus settling for just 75-50% of happiness and feeling that at a soul level, to where you start to degrade internally. And thus, how can we suit up and show up for our relationships if we're degrading ourselves? Our cups need to be full, and then we can start to pour into others. But another remembrance too, with the support thing, about how we're always supported along the journey, is when you are connected to Source, Source is going to take care of you. When you are working for Source, Source is never going to let those old patterns repeat. And this is something that I have a struggle with, is that I'm afraid of old cycles continuing, because at that time when I was going through that phase of my life, I wasn't connected. And because I wasn't connected, my life was falling apart. But now, since I'm consciously connected to a creator being, a larger creative source than I can even fathom right now, I'm protected. I'm always provided for, and sometimes just a little bit extra, just so I can kind of reap those rewards. But everything we need is always needed, and that's abundant enough. And I feel like that's another transition too, is that we're no longer we're kind of in a phase right now of our development where we're getting just what we want and we're getting just what we need to get by. So then when we start to get everything we want, we're going to be so much more appreciative of when those things arrive.
And because it has to be, because I find I'm always more abundant when I'm just grateful for where I'm at. And like I said, like now quitting my job and kind of, having just enough for my bills and not anything extra, like it's just really making me appreciate the fact, like, I don't have any late fees, I don't have any this, I don't have any that, and it's really nice to like sit in that space and be like, God, I'm just grateful for that. Or like being able to help other people, or you know what I mean? Like I always find I become more abundant after I've helped someone than just sitting and just like hoarding my own abundance, right? Like when someone needs help, even if it doesn't look like I can really afford, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say, if I needed the money, like they need it, and I'm in a position to help, why not?
Exactly. Well, and that's the natural reciprocity too. It's a give and take, and a lot of the old paradigm, especially the masculine force, hoards to an extreme. We see it. We see it here in America. I'm not sure about Canada. I was about to say Canada.
Canada.
And Canada.
I love it.
If you guys see the same thing, the same hoarding of money, control systems, things like that. And I feel like that's where you and I are on. We're a part of the shift where we're going to get just enough as those systems break down, because we're going to start to find more conscious and more awakened people in the 1%. That is going to really change the way money flows. But yeah, it's a natural process, and it's really hard, especially when we are in times like where we're at, where we kind of want to hold on to because we don't have a lot. But there is a natural give and take with money, and I'm glad that you're practicing that. That if someone needs something, or you want to tip your waitress a little extra more, you're letting that flow out, because it's always going to be returned, especially if it's in good faith, and it's to help another individual. So I'm glad to hear that.
You just believe and you trust in it, and you just say, if I wouldn't have this extra abundance if it wasn't for Source, so I'm going to share it with as many people as I can. And it leaves me a little bit tight, and I'm not going to say it's ever perfect. I'm not going to say I'm ever perfect, where I'm like just giving it out willy-nilly, but I try here and there. I try to tip above average. I try to support the people I can in my life that really need it, and honestly, it's come back. I don't recall a time it hasn't come back to me in some way or form, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was energetically, just having just the feeling it gave me, or it was, again, it came back in the form of physical material wealth, right?
And Spirit just highlighted something for me a few moments ago, and I'm holding on to it to ask a question right now. How is your trust in your faith?
It fluctuates. If I'm being honest, it fluctuates. There are some days where it's just like, it makes you see it from that highest perspective, right? You see how everything is interwoven and connected. And then there are other days where like you just don't get as many synchronicities, or you don't get as much, and you kind of like start drifting. And then there's that doubt that kind of creeps in and says like, maybe this isn't, because like, again, I died and I talked to God in its energetic form, and I was there and I lived it. But still, just the way the layers of separation work, right? Like the more layers, the more you question things, the more it just kind of buries you into completely forgetting, right? Like in a lot of ways, I think that's the system is designed like that on purpose, right? Like we're trying to forget that we're all one being. I think it's on purpose. Some people want to reawaken to remember it. Other people want to just bury in it and be like, no, I'm this separate being that's doing this separate being things, right? But at the end of the day, like, it's just about how many layers I have on top of me, really dictates my faith.
So, and what are you doing to strip those layers when you start to get too thick? Because I do the same thing, where depending on the amount of shadow that's coming to the surface, depending on just mind frame mindset, my faith will fluctuate. So what are you doing when the layers of separation are thick? How are you removing those layers for yourself?
My go-to methods are, I meditate on the things I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
I meditate on the kind of imagine just seeing how I go back and remember things that seemed impossible or incredibly unlikely, that they came like situations that just like worked out really well for me, or people that came into my life that seemed to be just like serendipitous and there like when I asked for it, and I reconnect back with the blessings I already have, and I reconnect back with all of my gratefulness, just saying like, you know what, regardless of whether it's true or not, I'm thankful that it worked out the way it did. Right. And sometimes I'm sure you feel this way too, especially when you're in among the asleep or the people that don't quite understand it, right? You feel kind of like an outcast.
Muggles.
Like that shaman that kind of went off in the woods, found out who he was, and he sure as shit wasn't what everyone else taught him what he was. And you go back to the regular person and you're just like, sometimes it's just hard to relate, and that creates that gap of separation as well, which is that's a judgment that I know I need to work on letting go. But
yeah, and I feel you there. And you know, there's such a level of unity in some aspects and such a level of separation, especially when like me, when I go out into nature, I'm unified. Like I got to experience that on my way out to Texas doing the grid work. And some moments with Samantha where I'm sitting down on a porch in a beautiful Airbnb on 9 acres of land, and we're talking, and the wind is responding to our conversation, and you know, hawks are coming in, and animals are coming up and saying what's up. And like this happened when we landed in Joshua Tree. Me and my travel partner, we show up, a jackrabbit shows up and is like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm a jackrabbit, we knew you were coming, what's going on? And that was that unification. But then I come back into society and I feel this separation again. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's really hard. It's not that I judge others in the level of you know, an awakened state, because it's just more of like, I wish more people would see this.
Or at least be open with themselves, or open with, you know, it's strange because it feels like there's a taboo about talking about that sort of things when it also seems like everyone knows it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the crazy part. Like it's not, and it's not like I don't really think it's something that's like projected. I don't think it's like a media bashing it or anything like that. Like in some cases, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like most people know, they acknowledge it, and then there's moments of extreme clarity where they're like, oh, right, we're all connected as one thing. This is just a very specific finger of the divine, right? I'm an atom on the face of God, you know, sort of thing. And then there's other times where it's just like, me as this ego is the center of the universe and there's nothing else. And you know what I mean? Like there's it's like that scale of narcissist to selfless, right?
Yeah.
it's like a Geiger counter sometimes,
Yeah.
just bouncing all over. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and I feel like too, it depends on how much we're tapping into the collective energy as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I both, as we can both shut off collective right now and just meet as two conscious beings discussing, we believe this. But
Yeah.
as soon as we start to anchor back into what I would call the real world or society, we can start to tap into the collective conscious, and then we're now starting to. And this is a thing too, is learning to tune into who I am naturally and who you are naturally, because I feel like when you can get two souls to discuss, like right now, we can start to block off all the external noise and we're a free flow of conscious information. But as soon as we start to die from this inward journey and then step into society where a majority of the collective is tapped into more of an unawakened state, that's where we might start to feel that separation too, is because we're also picking up on that energy as well.
I actually never thought about that, but I think you're right. It's like, and it feels like lately that kind of energy has been going around a lot. A lot of people unsure who they are. And a lot of like I've been seeing that in a lot of people that are really like doing a lot of internal work and like really, really taking big steps out of their comfort zone, really saying, who am I right now? Who am I? I know a few people that are really struggling at their core, being like just dismantling a bunch of old things. Like I know friends that have like finally stepped off of their antidepressants and they're like, I'm not a depressed person anymore. And then all of a sudden they stop and they go, well, who am I? Right? For the longest time, I was the person that when anyone would be like, do you want to go hang out? I was like, no, I have anxiety. I was the anxiety person, right? And I'm seeing these people kind of step out and they're kind of unsure, kind of like coming at like Dracula coming out of the coffin, like, I don't know like what's going on, like just timidly stepping out into the world. And I think that seems to be the energy for a lot of people, right? Like stepping out of their comfort zones and really shining that light on who are you, like answer me that question, who are you? And for me, a lot of times I don't have the answer, right? I know you've been having that same thing, right? Who am I? You look in the mirror and you're like, I don't know who this thing is, this entity is, right? Who's watching? It's probably the better question, right?
Yeah. Well, and the biggest thing is because when it comes down to it, I just know I'm consciousness projecting my reality accordingly. But the tough part is those moments of looking in the mirror and being okay with that person. There's a difference. I think the biggest thing right now is not so much who am I, at least for me, but it's being okay with that person without the validation, without the and for me, I've never made a lot of my own money. I haven't. But I find that when that client comes through and I get a booking and it's a and it's a paid session, it's not a free session, I get this moment of like, oh yes, okay, a little bit of money comes in and my mood goes and then just goes back down again, because it's like and it's still still learning to be able to seek that high of like what I get when that booking comes through, and being able to find that without that happening as well, because the more of those experiences that I start to experience and embody that emotion of bliss, more on the positive end of the spectrum when it comes to frequency of emotion, I'm able to project that more into the field, and then I'm thus calling more of those experiences in. And it's been interesting, especially being okay with the I am presence, because I'm going through it right now, and I think a lot of that has to do with full moon energy, taking our power back, and also me. I'm living back in an RV with not back. I've never lived in an RV, but I'm living in an RV with my parents again at 31 years old. So my self-worth is, but but I have to learn that there's so much more, and it's conversations like this and being able to flow with another individual that we are a lot more than we think we are when we are in our shadow and in that suppressed state of those heavy, dense layers of bullcrap that we need to shed away.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's nice at least to connect to another person that's not afraid to talk about that kind of feeling we all feel inside, right? And that's a part of finding that soul tribe, finding those people that you can take your masks off, take this Tyler mask off, and just say, I'm consciousness. What's up? How's your consciousness going? How's your manifestations going? Like, are you getting exactly what you're asking for? Because I am, and sometimes I'm not as happy as I thought I'd be.
Right? Yeah. It's like there's this meme I saw. It's like when the universe asks you to do something, and it shows Bob from Bob's Burgers. He's like, okay, I will do it, but I'm not gonna enjoy, or I'm gonna be whining the entire time, basically.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what happens is we are calling in these lessons. Like, whether we
100%.
believe it or not, when we're going through this, you're like, I called this in. I called it. Well, yeah, because there's something very vital and important that needs to happen right now.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's like you'll sit there and you'll be like, I'm in a good place. You know what? I'd like to learn more. And then you get hammered, right? Like, oh, I got a lesson for you, baby bird. I got something to feed you, right? And they just drop it on you, and you're just like, can I get a break? And they're like, oh, you want more lessons? I would drop lessons on those lessons, son. Like,
we're not dropping books off. We're dropping like real life crap. Or
we're like,
I want strength. Like, okay, well, let's make you really weak right now. You're like,
yeah, exactly. Like, I
I
want wisdom. Well, you're gonna feel real dumb for a bit, so heads up.
Oh, I'm glad we could laugh about this, because there was a point. There are moments where this stuff happens, and I just want to cry. I'm like, this is why is it keep happening?
100%, 100%. Where you just sit there and you're just like, why did I ask for this? Like, what? Every single, because like I get that feeling at least one point in like deep shadow work every single time where I go, where I like, it's almost like the divine in its sense of humor, just like when I'm sitting there like really suffering in it, and it's just like pops that memory of me being like, man, you know what, I think I'm ready for my next lesson, you know, like on a real good day. And then I'm like, why did I do that? Like,
why?
Yeah, it's like that meme where it's like when you transcend from Earth and you're just sitting there like thank God I'm never going back to Earth again. And then it's like 9 months later, it's like the baby like, I'm not going back to Earth to help anchor energy in anymore. That's how I feel.
Never again am I choosing to be an anchor ever again.
Yeah.
It is, you know, and it's nice too. This is the beauty of connections, is we can laugh at this stuff. This is right here. This is alchemy. We're taking a painful experience and we're illuminating it and turning it into gold, and we're being able to laugh about it. And like that's the thing we have to remember, is we're master alchemists, we're master creators, we are master beings in a body that came down to earth to transmute this crap. And so yeah, like when the garbage is going in the trash can, it sucks. And as it's churning about, it sucks. But then we have moments of gold like this where we get to spit it back up and it's all glitter, puppy farts, and rainbows. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That's one thing that I really love about transmutation work. Like at the time, it's garbage. It's hot garbage. But there's something about like going through the experience. And I like this format because I like that level of vulnerability of like talking about the things that I've been working through and the things that really I felt like broke me in a lot of ways, but allowed me to grow from that it's like I imagine it sort of like a branch in a tree, and it splits and it's painful, but then all of a sudden new life grows on it, right? And a new aspect of myself gets to grow out of that, and I really get to test myself. And I like that level of vulnerability to say, like, even as a man in that masculine energy, even to say, you know what, like this really hurt, or this really broke me down, or this really tested me. And I like being open and honest with like just talking with you and having life coaching or just having this format of talking to, you know, where it's between us, but it's also we're letting in energy right now, right? Like I'm sure you feel it as well when we do these things. I can feel the eyes of people watching this. Even if no one ever watches it, I feel the universe looking in on us. And I feel when people are laughing with us, and I feel when people are hurting with us, and I feel people that are getting the aha moments when we mention a story and say, like, this is the lesson I learned from it, right? And that's the part I think I like the most about like transmuting, is that I can turn around and that whatever, because I think I remember hearing a quote that goes a little something like, your poison is someone else's antidote. Right? Like what hurt you could be the thing that sets someone free, right? What caged you could free someone else. And I love the idea of that. And that's kind of what this is, right?
Yep.
Us talking about our vulnerabilities, talking about the things that genuinely concern us or the things that hurt us, and hopefully allowing other people to be like, oh my God, I'm not alone either. And to breathe that sigh where they can let go of it a little bit, right? And that's what I'm enjoy about this. Yeah.
Well, and we need more sages in this world. We need more, that was such an old way of storytelling, of being able to kind of share your experience with another individuals and to be a teacher. And that's the call. And we can, it's not like you have to reach 70 years old and then you're the sage and then you're the elder and then you're the teacher. You can be a teacher from day one. If you've been on this earth for 7 years and there's someone that's been here for 2, now I'm pretty sure there'll be a language gap because the two can't speak. But that 7-year-old has been through a few more lessons that they can end up talking to someone about. And this is what is really called for and needed, I see, in the evolution of what I'd call the urban shaman, more of the urban sage, is a lot of old elder tradition being passed down, which is just simply saying, this is what I did, to be able to get through it. And this is what a lot of the starseed genetic kids, crystal children, rainbow children, the upcoming generation is going to need, is us to talk more about what we did to get out of it. Because, unfortunately, like you and I, we've had to figure a lot of this out on our own. I didn't have a spiritual teacher. Spirit is the one that's been teaching me. I have not had a psychic teacher. I've had people that have taught me Reiki. I've had Reiki teachers, but I have not had a spirit. The way that I've been taught through this entire experience is my own experience, and also unpacking stuff with people like you and with other members that I've met along the way, and also listening to people. A lot of YouTube videos, a lot of
whatever gets drawn to your field of focus, right? You ask a question and you find answers in the strangest places. Yes. Or you just get, like, I remember I was doing like divination, asking my higher self questions, and I was like, I forget what I think I was asking, like I was in a point where I was like doubting whether I had like a twin flame, or I had like a soulmate.
Counterpart. Yeah.
And I was asking, like, do I have a twin flame? Do I have a soulmate? And it kept coming up, no.
Oh, I remember this. I remember you telling me about this.
I think I told you. Yeah, I told you about this, and it was driving me nuts. So I ended up having to it drew me into a rabbit hole of like looking into what the words mean and what the express and everything. And like, once I knew what it was, I asked Source again, or I asked my higher self again, like, do I have this? And they're like, yes, of course you have this. But now you know what you're asking for. You didn't before, did you? You were just repeating words. And I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
You know me.
And I've also, I've had, and I have a tough time saying this, but I've also, my higher self has misled me in order to teach me. And some people will be like, spirit will never mislead you. Well,
100%.
At the time, it actually, when it comes down to it, and I'm outside of the fact, I was never misled. I was led perfectly. It's just that what I was given in order to, I needed to go through that, because it was like, no, otherwise I wouldn't have continued on that lesson, and I needed to wrap that up.
That's the thing, is it's not that Source lies. Source tells you exactly what you need to hear. It's not a lie, because a lie would be deceitful. No. He tells you exactly what you need to hear. Like, because it wasn't that Source lied to me, right? To say that I didn't have a soulmate. It was just saying, you don't know what you're asking for. So I need you to figure out what you're asking for and then come back and ask. So I did, and asked, and it was like, of course you do. Right? Of course we all have these other incredible people in this great big universe that are here that you can find inspiration and connection with, right? Like, of course. Like, why are you even, it's a silly thing to ask, but at least now you're asking from a place of wisdom and a place of knowing, rather than a place of lack where you didn't understand it, right?
And yours came in relatively quickly. Like, you and I were working together maybe 2 months, and then maybe a little more than that, and then your partner showed up.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and that was, you know, a good showing of how much work you were putting in too, because it's interesting trying to, a lot of us are, you know, the divine connection has been really over glamorized and over romanticized, thanks to media and things like that. Even the word, I really dislike the word twin flame now, only because I've had my own things with that label and that name. And then, you know, also too, it's still putting a lot of power in another individual. It's still kind of like putting something on a pedestal when we're all simply spiritual beings in a human body, and we all come down with and get and receive all this programming and these beliefs that take us further and further away from our natural energetic imprint. And there should be more of an eye-to-eye inner seeing of how we see one another versus putting anyone on a pedestal, because, you know, these soulmates and twin flames like that, they've got their own programming and baggage that they come in with, and we're all in the process
100%.
of removing it. And it's not all puppy farts, rainbows, and sunshine. It has its dark moments. But if you can hold space for that other individual, and they can hold space for you, and there can be that reciprocity, you guys can get out of it, and you come out shining a lot brighter than you did before you entered. So
Yeah.
beautiful process.
Just finding that person that's willing to let you learn and hurt through it and work past it, but still see the divine in you.
Yes.
Right? And not give up and say, you know what? You got to go through this, because I know at the end, like, to allow you to suffer in silence and let you just do your thing. And I think that's the most important thing I've noticed with my partners, that she gives me that. She's there for when I need her to be there, but a lot of times she will just let me to work through my things myself, and that's what I needed, right? Like, that's why it's just, she came in my life exactly at the perfect moment.
And we all have our individual karma that we still have to play out alongside one another, and her giving you the opportunity to let you unravel that and go through it is and I have to do the same thing with Samantha. Is, you know, I'm going through my own crap, she's going through her own, and sometimes we just have to kind of go back and go, and you kind of got to let this person play their thing out, because well, it's not that hard. It's more, I'm gonna be here while you're going through that. But that we're all playing out our own individual scenarios, and as we are merging timelines, that does include, it's not like all of our learning lessons are going to be the same too at the same time. We may have to go through stuff at different times, but it's nice to hear that you're able to be there for one another. So
Absolutely.
So to wrap this up, it's 11:11 my time. That's hilarious. To wrap this up, beautiful time to wrap it up. What are you grateful for?
You.
Oh, thank you
for this opportunity. I'm grateful for the love I have in my life. I'm grateful for the abundance. I'm grateful for the opportunity of this. I'm grateful for the ability to go to school and to pursue what I want, and the ability to learn and hurt and grow and love and be torn down and built up. And I'm just, there are times where when you're being torn down, where you're asking for a one-way trip, just take me anywhere but here, right? But honestly, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for those opportunities where I got torn down and I got to arise on the other side a stronger soul than I was before, who can help more people at the end of the day, right?
There you go. And what are
about
your
you?
Okay. Back to what am I grateful for?
Flaming hot Cheetos.
Yeah, right. Flaming hot Cheetos. No, I am grateful. I am grateful for you, and grateful for these experiences. To be able to be 100% present, and being able to shut off the noise of up here in order to be here for another individual. I'm grateful for opportunity. I'm grateful that I chose to completely ditch my old life in order to create a brand new one from fresh scratch. And it's very difficult, but it's something that I have to remember. It's not easy to do. And when I feel weak and powerless, that I have to remember that it takes actually a great amount of strength in order to completely start over fresh in a completely different territory.
Oh,
New state,
absolutely.
don't know anyone, and following my legend, you know, and that's part of why I love that book, The Alchemist, is, you know, I'm following my legend and I'm being guided by something that's bigger than me. And it's a beautiful process. I'm grateful for my partner. Definitely grateful for Samantha. I'm grateful for Erica, that she is here holding space for you and taking care of you. I'm grateful to hear that the relationship is going so well, and how serendipitous it was how you guys met.
Yeah.
Which is well, for the sake of time, we're not going to go into that right now, but it's so beautiful how everything just aligned for you.
It was just ones and zeros. Yeah.
And I am grateful for, there was an experience I'll always remember a while ago where I was deep in my shadow, and my thoughts were so negative and I was projecting them out in the field so much that I almost caused an accident to happen in my life. And I will always remember that moment in San Diego at my sober living where I was coaching you, and I had come up with a huge realization of who I was in such a beautiful way. And I felt this ceiling break. Like you had like popped up in vibration just enough to like hold me to then have this breakthrough moment. And you know, it was a time in my life where it got really dark and I was really unsure of what was going on in my life. And I'm really grateful for that moment, because the beautiful thing about these connections is if you're ever in your funk or those layers are getting thick, you never know when you just talk to another individual and you come up with this huge insight and break through and literally shatter that wall and expand into the next level of where you're at. And that moment for me will always be held dear in my heart. And I'm appreciative of you for holding space during that and for letting me break through.
Absolutely, anytime.
So, buddy, much love and respect to you. And once again, much love and respect to everybody out in the Webverse. Thank you for joining us. More of this to be coming soon, especially since we're both not working and doing this.
A lot of time.
A lot of time. So there's gonna be a lot more podcasts. So, Tyler, love you, bud. Send my love to Erica, and we will chat soon.
All right, man.
All right, bud. Take it slow and easy. Did it stop?